Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. So we had a very busy week with town meeting, annual town meeting for 2013, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I would call it a night and a half, really, not even 2 nights. I would say a night and a half, thanks to our terrific moderator who runs a fabulous meeting, Sarah Alger, and our projectors, Mary and Al Novissimo, who always do a fabulous job putting up on the screen the amendments and the maps and all that stuff. So I don't know what we would do without them. So that was really terrific. So that was the annual town meeting, and now we have a lot of focus on the follow-up. All of the bylaw amendments get sent to the Attorney General's office for review and approval. Some of the bylaw amendments, depending on what they are, also go to other state or federal agencies. The home rule petitions are sent up to our legislators, Senator Wolf and Representative Madden. What are the real estate items will get scheduled in, not right away, but will get scheduled in to go before the Board of Selectmen at some point to determine if they were authorized to do something. Do they want to do it or not? What additional information might they need? Our budgets will get set up for the next fiscal year. Our capital projects that were approved will get in the queue for procurement. So there's an awful lot of follow-up. Next week, we're going to have a busy week too. We have the election on Tuesday. We have a Board of Selectmen's meeting Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock for the swearing in. And sometimes the board elects its officers that Wednesday morning, and sometimes they don't. So they will decide at the meeting if they're going to do that or not. Sometimes they do it later Wednesday night. Sometimes they wait a week or two. Other items we have on Wednesday night agenda, it could be a bit busy. We have a noise bylaw waiver, some gift acceptances, an appointment to Capital Program Committee, some appointment types of things. We're getting an update from the Nantucket Hunting Association regarding their shooting range project. We have a public hearing to basically set the tax, I'm just going to call it the tax rate. That's not quite what it is, but that's what people associate it with. The tax rate hearing, it's an annual public hearing that we have for the board to the tax rate is basically a formula, but they agree on the it's too complicated to explain. Plus, I'm really tired today. The Natural Resources Department is coming in, and they are going to give an update on the status of the fertilizer use regulations. Just noticed a typo in the agenda. Got to get that fixed. Oh, awesome news. Between the incredible efforts of Dave Franzuto, our emergency management coordinator, one of our consultants, Rosemary Black here, and a couple of other people, Kara Buzanowski, our DPW director, a little bit, they have put together a proposal to the federal government for the repair and restoration of the jetties, both jetties. It has been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers for an initial feasibility study. I think it's around $100,000 or so, maybe a little more. And it's already getting into the queue of the federal funding. This is a federal project for something like $10 million. I mean, these are projects that take years. Once you start asking and trying to get yourself in the queue, they take years. 15 years, for example, is not an unreasonable, well, I shouldn't say unreasonable, is not an unusual amount of time. We started this maybe late last fall or early in the winter. Boom, done.
Wow. Well,
not done, but still some things to go to on the road, well on the road.
Let me ask you,
they're going to come give an update.
Okay. What about the bulkhead on Easy Street? People have been asking me about
Yes, okay, the bulkhead on Easy Street, that is a problem. The sidewalk is going to get fixed before Daffodil Weekend. I was just talking to Kara about that.
Oh.
The bulkhead itself, we think we're going to be getting some federal funding or state funding to fix it because it is, you know, there's some storm damage to it, but it was already in bad shape to begin with.
Yeah.
So they're very, what's the word? I won't say picky, but they're very, they want to make sure that your project wasn't damaged worse by the storm than it would have been if it hadn't been already kind of in bad shape, and it was already kind of in bad shape. So we're hoping for at least a little money for that, but we may have to dig around for money to fix that thing. We also talked about raising it up a bit.
Probably makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I am actually a little surprised that you don't regularly see people falling in. to the water. Walking, like kids, like walking along it.
Oh, that's true.
I've grabbed my kids before because I thought they were about to go in. And how embarrassing would that be?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so we're going to get an update on that. We're also bringing back the Nantucket Shellfish Management Plan. That was something discussed by the board at their last meeting. They weren't ready to adopt it yet. They wanted more of a chance to review it, so they're going to be talking about that. And sometimes they do the board members are liaisons or designees to different committees and work groups. Sometimes they do those right after the election, and sometimes they wait a bit. So we have it on the agenda right now, but that might wait a bit. Now, something we were just talking about in the office, so hot breaking news, late breaking news, whatever. The parking for Cisco Brewers. Okay, there was an article in the paper yesterday about a piece of land nearby that they were going to think about making into parking for the facility in the event that the Bartlett fence gets moved out more into the road so that you will not be able to park on that road. We've gotten several neighbor calls and inquiries about this, and there seems to be some thinking that it's coming to the Board of Selectmen. Here's what I believe is happening. The parking lot proposal is not coming to the Board of Selectmen. That is not the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction. If an application were filed, which it has not been, it would go to the Planning Board. I'm told by the Director of Planning that they are probably, I don't want to say definitely because I wasn't 100% sure about it, probably dropping the application or not pursuing that option, I think. What is probably coming before the board at some point, and somebody was just talking about April 24th, that is, we've never heard that before today in our office. A petition for the county commissioners to take an additional portion of Bartlett Farm Road that would allow the fence to be moved back. So that's all going to take some time. I do not know if that would, if the county commissioners were approving of such an idea. There's a whole specific statutory process that then has to happen. There's surveying and, remember it's Friday, I can't think of everything right now. There's a lot of things that go along with it, procedural things. So we just heard we might be getting the petition for the April 24th County Commissioners agenda. And let me pre-warn you, we have a massive agenda that night already for other unrelated things. So, if that does come in, it's probably only going to be the county commissioners saying, okay, we will take this petition under advisement, something like that. Because in the past, when we've had such similar proposals, petitions, they take it under advisement. They do not act that night because they need to know more about what it's going to cost and what are the pros and cons and staff review and blah, blah, blah. So that's what we most recently heard. I will hopefully report more on this next week.
Why do you need a parking lot anyway? It's been going this way for years, with them just parking on the side of the road.
Well, if the fence moves out more into the road, there will not be off-street parking, as there kind of is now. You won't be able to park on the side of that road.
Oh. I see.
No parking on the side of that road. Obviously, if the fence moves into the,
right.
into the road area more, you won't be able to park off the road. And you can't park on the road. It's much too narrow of a road for emergency and safety purposes. So.
Yeah, all right.
I'm trying to get my e-newsletter out today, so look for that in the next few days. I'm not promising it'll get out today. I'm trying.
All right.
But it is, remember, it's Friday after town meeting. We're beat here.
Yeah, everybody's kind of washed out.
Yeah. But it was a good town meeting, I think. There was lots of good discussion about things and very low turnout.
Do you want to go through any of them?
Do we have to relive it?
Just for those people who didn't go that would want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
I can give you a couple of highlights.
Yeah.
We had 87 articles on the warrant. Approximately 25 were called. There was a bit of discussion about Article 10. That's the capital project. There was an attempted amendment that failed. Let me look at the index here and see what else. There was an effort to increase funding for the Prospect Street bike path. It is going to be a phased project right now, and the proponent of the idea to do it all at once was seeking $900,000 to do it all at once, and that failed. There was an effort to seek an appropriation for a tick-borne disease reduction program. However, Board of Health members got up and said, we appreciate it, we like the money at some point, but right now we don't know what we would spend it on. We need to develop a better plan. So there was some talk about, well, how come we don't have a better plan yet? Because we have got this terrible tick problem. So there's some discussion about that, but that amendment failed. We had 11 zoning bylaws. Only one was called. One. That's like, I never heard of that before. And it didn't even take that long. It was a kind of a rewrite of permitted uses. So, but we went through it, it was called, and it ultimately was approved. What else do we do? Oh, civil fingerprinting, that took a while. That's a bylaw amendment that allows the town to fingerprint applicants for certain types of licenses that previously the police department could do background checks on such applicants, but there's been changes at the federal and state levels, and you can no longer do that without this type of bylaw. So for example, taxi drivers, with the adoption of this bylaw, can be fingerprinted annually for non-criminal background for background check purposes. So there was some pros and cons discussion about that. You know, the Big Brother argument came up, and the cost. Although the Board of Selectmen set the fee, and already at the FinCom hearing there was an initial fee of $100. The FinCom said, we're going to leave the fee up to the board, but we hope the board doesn't make it $100. Now, part of the fee must, by statute, go to the state and the federal government for the processing of this whole thing. So the town doesn't even, it's not a moneymaker. And to make a long story short, that ultimately passed, because I can't go on and on about, one article here.
Sure.
We had a couple of charter amendments, those failed. The HDC. There were a few home rule petitions regarding the HDC, and the bottom line on that was, I believe that was referred to a committee to be established of different sort of town people and HDC people. I didn't bring that, but anyway, no changes were made.
Limits? Did that ever?
No, that didn't even come up. That didn't even get called.
All right.
Because I think the idea was, there had been some pre-discussion evidently about this with the interested parties, and everybody agreed we need to take a look at the HDC Act, what could maybe be updated, what should stay the same, and let's have a group take a look. It's a good idea, so that's going to happen. Okay, there were two other home rule petitions regarding employee benefits. One was to cease longevity payments for town employees, and what happened with that was there was some discussion about that. It was a non-binding, the FinCom motion was that town meeting provide non-binding guidance to the town administration and Board of Selectmen that the town not provide longevity payments to employees hired after this town meeting. There's obviously a lot of collective bargaining that needs to go on to completely end longevity payments, and we've already undertaken collective bargaining action and negotiations to change the longevity system. Mostly, not entirely, but mostly right now, employees have a percentage-based longevity system. So for example, if you've been here for 5 years, your longevity payment is, I think, 2%, or maybe it's 10 years. I remember it's Friday.
Sure.
After a certain period of time, it's 2% of your base salary, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. It is a lot of money. It is not entirely unusual, this percentage-based system, but I think it's getting phased out in municipalities because it's too costly. So we've switched some unions for employees hired after a certain date to a flat rate system. So instead of being percentage-based, it's $1,000 a year or $1,500 a year. Now, we used to have that system a long time ago when I first started working here, and it changed to the percentage-based so now we're changing it back. And it helps with town, with the costs. In any event, that was a non-binding question. I jotted a note that it weakly passed. It was a voice thing, not a hand thing.
Well,
it was good to bring it up.
Sure.
Article 66, that was a home rule petition by the same sponsor to seek, it was relative to retirement benefits for town employees. And basically the idea was that employees who commence employment after a certain date are no longer eligible to be in the Barnstable County retirement system, which is the system that town employees, except for teachers, are in. And it would require that they go to a 457 or comparable plan as may be sponsored by the town. There was some discussion about this, and a home rule petition, in my opinion, is unlikely to pass for this because Nantucket is not so different than any other town that we should be excluded from the system. There are differing opinions on this. In any event, to make a long story short, that did not pass. The FinCom had a motion not to adopt with a comment that we take a look at the overall compensation for strategy for employees. And then the sponsor had a motion to adopt it. So it was a yes 93, no 135. It was not adopted. But I think I'm expecting there to be more discussion about the retirement costs as we move forward into the next year or two. Okay, there was some other non-binding requests for things, and we didn't even, there wasn't even...
The funeral home?
The funeral home was one of them. Okay, all right. That was a non-binding, sense of the meeting request for town support of the Nantucket Life Foundation, which would be a nonprofit group that would endeavor to purchase the current funeral business, petition the town to provide land, to construct a nonprofit funeral home, to hire and supervise employees, and to establish a not-for-profit crematory. Again, all non-binding. Not so, even if it had been approved, it doesn't. I'm not really sure what it means. So the voice vote on. So the sponsor had a motion to adopt this, but it was defeated.
Okay.
We had a couple other non-binding things that had varying degrees of success. We had several real estate items. 47 Boulevard was an item. That is a piece of land out in Surfside that originally, when the board put this in the warrant, they were seeking authorization to sell the property or convey it perhaps to an affordable housing group. So they wanted some flexibility, some options, or lease it. To make a long story short, it ended up passing with an amendment to strike the lease language. Then we had, let's see, what else do we have? 2 Bartlett Road. That was an Article 74, to acquire a portion of 2 Bartlett Road, which is on the corner of Bartlett and Surfside. And the idea, over time, not to happen tomorrow, is that the town would acquire the portion of the property that might be needed in the future for a roundabout. That's a bad traffic area.
Yeah.
And I think we can, hopefully, most of us anyway, would probably agree that the roundabout at Sparks and Pleasant and Hooper Farm has worked pretty well if you think about what was there before. So it would be the same idea here.
That's where Poets Corner is,
That's
right?
where Poets Corner is. Poets Corner, I believe, is for sale, and that's the
What
parcel we're
happened
talking
there?
about.
So what happened?
That was approved.
Good.
Okay, there were. Is that enough?
What about the windmill?
Oh, okay. Well, was that the Gookin article?
Yeah.
Authorization for lease at landfill for community scale wind turbine. That was Article 84. I don't believe that passed. The Finance Committee had a move to take no action. Barbara Gookin, the sponsor, had a motion to. I didn't write what her motion down was. Write down what her motion was, but it was a positive motion, and it was defeated. There was some discussion about that.
Yeah,
interesting discussion
because didn't
actually.
She have a bidder that was ready to put it in on his own dime? I thought that was.
I think I don't know if she had somebody ready, but I think that was her idea was that it would be privately financed.
Okay.
Okay, there was a bit of talk about Martin's Lane. There was a citizen article to instruct the Board of Selectmen and County Commissioners to abolish the use of Martin's Lane. That had a number of legal problems, so it was not recommended by the Finance Committee. There was a bit of discussion about it, but or maybe there wasn't. It wasn't even called. Oh, Mr. McLaughlin, the sponsor, made a comment about it, and then I think we were done with it.
All right.
There was a move, I should probably mention this, One of the last articles, 86, was appropriation for the stabilization fund. The FinCom didn't recommend any money to go in there for this year because we've met our target per a policy that we have about how much money should be in that fund. But since we had such a large amount of free cash this year, there was, and when we didn't use it all, there was a position by some that some of it should go into the stabilization fund so that it can't be easily accessed. What did the person say? He wanted a bigger lock on the money, and I can, believe me, I can understand that viewpoint. In any event, the motion was to take $500,000 of the unexpended free cash, which is around $2.5 million, and put it in stabilization. This, okay, I'm glad I'm mentioning this because it was interesting. It teaches a little bit of a lesson here. It failed. That motion failed by one vote. It was a 2/3 requirement. Yes, 99, no 50. One vote. And I talked to somebody yesterday and he said, I almost voted for it. And I said, yeah, I almost did too. It could have turned things around, or we would have canceled each other out or whatever. But one vote. Every vote counts, just goes to show. So that's town meeting, wrapped up till maybe fall, maybe, or next year. We don't know about fall yet. I have to wait and see. Did you have other questions, Gino?
No, you've done a great job today. You've enlightened us.
Even though it's Friday.
Yeah.
After town meeting.
Off. Yep.
I pulled it off. All right. Very good. Next week will be an interesting week with the election, and we'll see how that all pans out. Yeah. And we do have our board meeting, so I have Cape Cod managers next week, so we might have to do Friday.
No problem.
We'll work that out later.
Yep.
Thanks very much. See you next time.